Now, a performance audit report of the Auditor General on the administration of scholarships by GETFund has revealed lists of members of Parliament and other influential people benefiting from the fund. Names like that of the Education Minister Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, Procurement Minister and Deputy Majority Leader in Parliament Sarah Adjoa-Safo, as well as the Executive Secretary of the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, NACA, Prince Hamidu Ama, have all been or have benefited from the scheme. We'll get to their reactions shortly, but just so you know, Dr. Opoku-Prempeh, while an MP, is listed as studying national and international security at Harvard University, receiving some $12,800 for living expenses and $11,200 as tuition fees. Sarah Adjoa-Safo is also listed as studying, or as she studied at the Harvard Kennedy School, enjoying some $12,800 in allowances, with $17,004 in tuition fees. Dr. Amaris also studied philosophy and education at the University of Aberdeen, which comes with a benefit of £38,400 for living expense, in addition to some £33,000 for tuition fees. My colleague Kojo Yankson joins me in studio with details. Kojo, what more can you tell us in terms of some of the benefits, some of the names coming out of this?
Well, beyond the names, I can broadly tell you what the Auditor General's report found wrong with the performance of their duties at GETFund. Generally, this report from 2012 to 2018, according to the Auditor General, the Secretariat spent $425,698,973 Ghana cedis on scholarships. There were 3,112 beneficiaries. Now, the Auditor General finds that out of that number, 2,217 of them received unlawful scholarships, unlawfully granted scholarships to study abroad. The public body in Ghana mandated to run foreign scholarship schemes is the Scholarship Secretariat, not GETFund. So according to the Auditor General, in their findings, their conclusions, they say that the GETFund Secretariat, in contravention to the object of the fund, one, administered the scholarship themselves, which they are not mandated to do, and two, illegally funded foreign scholarships, therefore acting ultra-virus. Now, you mentioned a few names of people who have benefited from this. All of them studied abroad. Now, what the law says, and in fact, this is how GETFund responded when the Auditor General questioned them about these scholarships. They said that, in fact, their Act, Section 2(2)E of the GETFund Act 2000, which is Act 518, enables GETFund to provide money to support such other educational activities and programs for the promotion of education as the Minister, in consultation with the Board, may determine. It was therefore in line with this that the Secretariat granted scholarships to parliamentarians and politicians to enhance the consolidation of our democratic dispensation. So here in the response of the GETFund, they are saying that the law allows them to grant scholarships to people who may not be needy and brilliant, but simply people who can further the course of education here in Ghana. So they are saying that all these people, about 89 of them, who the government, through GETFund, spent $4.7 million on, all 89 of them were granted these scholarships at the discretion of whichever minister was in place at the time, because their education would further the course of education here in Ghana. So that's the response that they've given. Of course, Auditor General did not find this response to meet the tenets of the law, because all of these people were sent to study abroad when GETFund is not supposed to be.
But indeed, if you look closely at the statement, it also sort of wants to, this administration wants to disassociate itself and say that, but all these things happen not under this current administrator. I want us to take a look at their own website to look further at some of the things that they've stated on their own website in terms of their mission. Yes.
So it says here that GETFund's mission is to support the delivery of quality education to the citizens of Ghana from the basic to tertiary levels through dynamic funding policies carried out aimed at ensuring equitable provision of essential resources for all levels of education to all segments of the Ghanaian population. So, yes, their website is speaking comprehensively about the mission for which GETFund was set up. And it's supposed to be for citizens of Ghana at all levels. The idea here, and we have to go into their actual act, which is also on the website, where it will state quite clearly what sort of education they can fund, how they can do it, and what they're supposed to do, the means testing they're supposed to do before they determine whether a person qualifies for the fund or not.
So if you look at the objects of the fund, it says the object of the fund is to provide finance to supplement the provision of the education at all levels by government. 2, for the purposes of attaining this object, the monies from the fund are to be expended as follows. A, to provide financial support to the agencies and institutions under the Ministry of Education through the Ministry for the Development and Maintenance of Essential Academic Facilities and Infrastructure in public educational institutions, particularly in tertiary institutions. It also goes on to say to provide supplementary funding to the Scholarship Secretariat for the grants of scholarships of gifted but needy students for studies in the second cycle in accredited tertiary institutions in Ghana. And this is essentially what the report seeks to bring out very clearly, and says that it's gone contrary. But if you go further, it also says to contribute monies from the fund towards the operation of student loans schemes for students in accredited tertiary institutions through loan scheme mechanisms and agencies approved by the minister.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that echoes what they said to the Auditor General, that the minister can, in consultation with the board of trustees of GETFund, they can approve scholarships for individuals who may not necessarily be needy and brilliant, but simply people whose education will further the course of education here in Ghana. So that is the criterion under which this discretion can be used by the minister. So I think the Auditor General is questioning whether or not these 89 individuals identified as beneficiaries who are not necessarily needy, whether indeed the discretion used to give them the scholarship meets this particular criterion. But let's not forget that beyond that, there is the simple question of whether or not GETFund should be funding foreign studies. And according to their own law, they should not. In fact, this morning we spoke to Vincent Asifwa, who confirmed as much, that no, GETFund is not supposed to be funding needy students to study abroad. And
that's a PRO of the Ghana, the Ministry of Education.
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, there have been some disclaimers issued by several people connected to this.
I want us to start with the Minister of Education, Dr. Matthew Poko Prempeh, who spoke to our sister station, Adom.
Free in Fisher, in Pimunu, and you do swap, and I do don't call for the minister.
From 2016 that I was made a minister, I have not had the opportunity of having a 2-week leave, let alone the opportunity to pursue a master's or a PhD.
Now, I said no, me better by and name another name of Ministry of Education.
There's no iota of truth in this matter. As a minister with oversight responsibility of a GETFund, I have not taken money from the fund. It is absolutely false.
Yeah, Benjamin. When coaches at the free GETFund in mind. Now the crew of this if you new edit to
the truth of the matter is, in 2014, we had an invitation from Harvard University to pursue a course, and GETFund sponsored it.
Parliament, GETFund the sponsor in Yemen. Now, so the mechanic,
but I was not the only one who went for the course. I would not mention any names. Not all of us got the money from GETFund.
So 2014, Harvard to suffer same GETFund sponsor.
Others got it from the National Health Insurance. It was a number of us, and we all accessed funds from various sources. Somebody just wrote the 12,000, but it's bizarre for anybody to think that GETFund could release to me a $12,000 amount for a 3-week course.
So that's the response this morning given by the Education Minister, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, as he spoke to our sister station, Adom TV. So the question still being asked, and if you look at details of that report, it says GETFund Secretariat breached the objects of the fund and administered the scholarship themselves and illegally funded foreign scholarships that's acting outside their mandates. We've got some more reactions.
That's right.
The Executive Secretary of NACA has been responding indeed with various posts as this news broke over the weekend.
Yes, now he, Dr. Prince Ama, was a beneficiary in 2012. So he has put a number of statements up on his social media. I'll read one of them. It says, this was posted about 11 hours ago. It says, "To whom much is given, much is expected." Prince Hamid Ama, PhD. It's important every now and then to take time to express gratitude for the many wins that have blown your life across the stormy challenges that have beset you. Mine was not a life of privilege. At many points during my education, it seemed as if I could go no further. It was a struggle to get into and through senior high school, as it was for my undergraduate and postgraduate studies at the University of Education, Winneba. These struggles did not daunt, but rather strengthened my belief in the need for and the power of education to change lives and transform communities. And that is the very point I made when I applied for a scholarship from the Ghana Education Trust Fund back in 2012. My purpose was to acquire the competencies that would enable me contribute to the national mission of extending quality education to everyone. 3 years later, in 2015, having graduated with PhD in mathematics education, I stayed true to my promise. I rebuffed several offers from the United Kingdom where I had studied, including from Oxford University, and returned home to give back to and serve the country that had believed in me and given me a shot that I would otherwise never have had. That's why I dedicated my life to the cause of education in Ghana. Among the children of Ghana are many who can reach for the greatest heights, who can make a contribution to the project of national building. Our duty is to open the pathways of opportunity for them, from FQ, Free Senior High School, through to a transparent scholarship scheme that lifts up those who need it. We must work harder and harder to ensure that finance is not a barrier to the committed and to the talented. This is the cause that I have dedicated myself to, and this is how I'm expressing my gratitude to my nation, and I hope you will too. He uses the hashtags for God and country and for the good of Ghana. He does not address, however, the Auditor General's concern over the fact that it was foreign study that was funded, which GETFund is not supposed
I guess
to.
this is to make the points that he needed the scholarship and that's why he applied for it and then he came back. Because if you look at the audit report, and this is also one of the areas that many are worried about, the fact that the scheme was to provide supplementary funding to the scholarship secretariat for granting of scholarships to gifted but needy students to study in second cycle in accredited tertiary institutions here in our country. Well, we also want to take a listen to the Education Ministry PRO, Vincent Dekol Asifwa, who spoke on the Super Morning Show this morning. In that interaction, Kojiansin, you also spoke to the PR of the Ghana Education Service, who initially wanted to discredit a story that had been put up on myjoyonline.com.
Yes, he said that the story on myjoyonline.com, which identified the beneficiaries, including Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, who is the Education Minister, he said that because he was referred to as Education Minister, it would mislead the public into thinking that he received that benefit as Education Minister. So he sought to make the distinction that actually Dr. Opoku-Prempeh's scholarship was granted him while he was a member of Parliament under the previous government. So he made that point, but then we had a lot more to ask him beyond that. I think we can hear him now.
The publication from My Joy Online is very unprofessional, very unjournalistic, and I don't think that it should have come from My Joy Online, especially because when you put out a statement and say that Education Minister benefits from GETFund Schorlaship, the impression that you are seeking to put out there is that the Education Minister, that is Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, has benefited from GETFund at the time that he was a Minister of Education. Now, my concern is that, and I have to state this for the general public to also know what the facts are. Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh has never received any scholarship from GETFund since assuming office as the Minister of Education. Now, however, the impression that is also put out there that the GETFund Act, that is the Act 581, is supposed to be giving scholarship to needy but brilliant students is also false. That is not the only mandate of GETFund. In fact, the same act, that is the GETFund Act 581, subsection 2E, also allows the Minister of Education, in consultation with GETFund, to promote education in this country, give some of these sponsorships or scholarships to people to go and learn and come and help this country, as per the GETFund Act 2E, subsection 2E. It allows for anybody to be given an award to go and train, as the minister may decide. So I am saying that subsection 2E covers Dr. Matthew Poku Prempeh to have benefited from GETFund at the time. Of course, if it was from 2017 up to now, probably that is when we would have had a problem with it. But the most important thing is that as a minister, he has not benefited from GETFund. And the impression out there that people are saying that this is supposed to be what it is reserved for needy but brilliant students is not the case.
Okay, Mr. Asifo, hello, this is Kojo Yankson. Is GETFund supposed to offer scholarships for foreign study?
Well, if you check the mandate, I don't think that they are supposed to be doing that. And that is why the performance audit had to clearly indicate some of the shortfalls that GETFund has been going through, if you like, some institutional challenges that have been GETFund has been going through. So I don't think that they are supposed to be doing. And in fact, if you read the performance audit, I have read some aspect of it. It clearly states that some of these monies are supposed to be given to Scholarship Secretariat. And that's the GETFund Act itself. It corroborates that point of the Auditor General that is supposed to be given to Scholarship Secretariat. But however, GETFund reserves some amount of rights, as per the Act, to be able to promote education by managing some amount of scholarship or the funds.
So that's the spokesperson of the Ghana Education Ministry, the Ghana Education Minister, Asifo. There are still many more questions left unanswered.
Indeed, and I think in the coming days, some of the things that people would want to know is why was the GETFund spending sometimes over 300% of its budget in a single year between 2012 and 2018. In fact, in 2018, the Auditor General says that they spent over 100% of their budget. And why was this happening when there were infrastructure projects being left, uncompleted? Why were they spending more than they were budgeted to spend on these scholarships? And why were they spending on foreign education when they are not mandated to do so? See, these are some of the questions that obviously we will be seeking answers to. But there are some of the people named in this list of 89 recipients who the Auditor General does not consider to be needy and brilliant. On that list, there are people who claim that they did not receive the money that the list says they were given.
So they are mentioned as beneficiaries, but indeed
they say they did not receive that money. So naturally, we're going to be looking into these as well to find out what exactly happened to some of these money. Some of them were supposed to be given spending money, and it says on the documentation that GETFund gave the Auditor General that spending money was paid to them. But these individuals say, I never even went to study there. The fees were never paid for me to go and study in these institutions. So what's spending money?
And we also do know that there's a body that's supposed to check that the administrator does not go out of his scope. So why did all the people around sit down to watch them do the wrong thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Plenty more answers that we'll be seeking. Thank you, Kojo Yankson.